Starbro.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming to this conference today.
Thank you for having me. I'm anxious to hear about how my daughter is doing.
All right, well, I've asked you here today to discuss your daughter's progress. We administered an achievement test at the beginning of January called the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. Now, this is not an intelligence test, but rather a snapshot of one day on how your daughter performed in standard subjects compared to other fourth graders nationally. Since this was only an assessment of how she did on one day, we shouldn't look at this as a complete representation of all she has learned and all that she is capable of. Now, if you look at the results of this test, you will see that it is divided into two sections. This top box here on the left is the norm reference scale, which shows how your daughter achieved on this test overall in comparison to students nationally in her grade level, which is fourth grade. Now, the bottom section is the portion that is criterion referenced. Now, this breaks down how she performed on each subject individually, and also shows the percentage of how she did compared to other fourth grade students. Do you have any questions?
Has she been improving as much as she should throughout the year?
Okay, now, well, if you go up to the norm reference box up here at the top, we can see that her grade equivalent score, which is right here, since she took this test in January, which is the 6th month from August, and she's in the fourth grade, we would say that her grade equivalent should range from 4.6 up.
Okay.
So 4.6 is probably the score we want her to have. So, as we can see, she is excelling in some subjects with a 5.0 in concepts. She has a 5.6 as her math total. She's on track in a few. For example, she has a 4.6 in her math computation. And if we look at her spelling, she's just a little bit behind where she scored a 4.2. Do you have any questions with that information?
No. Can you explain this norm group? Who is she being compared against?
Okay. So the norm group, she was compared against all fourth graders in the nation for this particular test. Every student had to take this test. So when we see the national percentile rank, which is right here, that means that she did that much better than other students in her grade.
Okay.
So that was the norm reference, but if we look down at the criterion section, which is down here at the bottom, we can look at her achievement in each individual subject.
Okay.
She was tested over several categories ranging from vocabulary, reading comprehension, spelling, math computation, social studies, science, etc. Now, in each of these skills, there were, let's say, content that went in depth. For example, in reading comprehension, they went into inferencing, analysis, generalization, and those questions covered the individual requirements for each skill. So, for example, such as inference and interpretation in reading, and adding with whole numbers in math.
Okay. Can I ask you a question? What do these abbreviations mean?
Okay, well, you can see right here, in the first column, those numbers are the total items on the test. In the second column, that is the number that the student attempted out of all of the questions. The third column is the percent correct that the student receives from the test. And the last column is the percent correct nationally that a fourth grader would receive. So if we look at vocabulary, we see that there was 34 items, 34 items on the test. She attempted all 34 questions. That's great for her grade. And out of all 34 questions that she attempted, she got 76% correct. And that is better than the percent correct nationally, because that's usually 58%. So your daughter did very well. So we can see from her percentile rank right here in the top box that she performed in the 75th percentile. In this gray line, we're going right down here, meaning that she scored better than 75% of her fourth grade peers nationally. So on the bell curve, we see the mean right here in the middle, and she performed in the 75 percentile. So on the bell curve, she is on the right. That places her above average. In this particular test, the standard error of measurement is 4 points. So we can assume that whatever her grade is, it can be plus or minus 4 points. So this standard error of measurement can occur. It can be how your daughter is feeling. Is she tired? Is she hungry? The classroom environment, was it noisy? Was it cold? Or even the reliability of specific test questions can cause the standard error of measurement. So, but on the bell curve, there are scores ranging from 1 to 9. These are standard scores called Stanines, and these scores let us see where each student ranks nationally. So 1 to 3 would be below average, 4 to 6 is average, and 7 to 9 would be above average. Your child, or your daughter, she falls right between 6 and 7, so she is doing very well on the bell curve.
Okay, so overall she's better than her peers, but she's only scoring 75%?
Okay. Actually, she is doing better than 75% of her peers. So that doesn't represent her grade. Her average composite score, if we look back on the test on the skills, her average composite score on the test was 210. We expect about a 200 for most fourth graders. This score is showing the great progress that she is making. Okay. We can also see this based on where she falls on the bell curve. So also looking at the bell curve, we see that she falls to the right, which is above average for what we expect for fourth graders on the normal curve equivalent. And this section on the bell curve represents the national average score for her grade level. Okay. So looking back at the bottom portion with the subject detail, I can use this information, to see where your daughter is doing well and where she needs a bit more attention. So do you have any questions about these scores?
Well, looking at her scores, she seems to be doing well overall. However, I feel like I'm seeing that she fell below some of her averages on a few of the language arts skills.
Yes. Okay, those scores caught my attention as well. Okay. I wouldn't be concerned with this though, because if you look closely at those content areas, they only had 3 to 6 questions. So the questions were a low amount of questions. Still, she is doing an excellent job in her math. If you look at her math, she scored high. There was more questions, and she ranked very highly in her math section. So even though these results suggest that she is low in spelling, we can look at her work in the classroom. For example, we can look at her work in the classroom and see that she's greatly improved over the last few months. Like her classroom portfolio will show assessments that I've given throughout the years and projects that she completed over the years. And from this, we can see that she's improving. So you shouldn't have to worry about those low scores in spelling.
Okay, what can we do to help her improve in this spelling then?
Okay, I send home weekly spelling lists. So it would be helpful if you could practice these with her at home. For example, when you're sitting at the dinner table, have creative little fun spelling bee games. Just incorporate fun, creative ways to engage her in practicing her spelling words. In class, I'll include more instruction and time for writing and spelling games to also help her improve. Now, I can give you a handout that explains the scores that we looked at today. Overall, she's doing very well And we should be very proud of her work and achievements. Yes. So, do you have any other questions or concerns?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk to me about your daughter's progress. She's a bright student and she contributes so much to this classroom, and I really enjoy her. So please feel free to call me or email me with any other questions or concerns that you have.
All right, thank you. Turn it on.